Welcome, everybody. Episode 32 of the latest. And Brad, we've kind of gone over the hump into the third quarter or second half of 2025. Pretty incredible, huh?
Yeah, it's been a fun ride through the lens of what's new and what's the latest. There's been so much to talk about that's new and the latest. We were joking just before we hit the live button that we each went to like look at something in software, and then the pop-up came up and said this is new like this morning. So you're just like, well, now I got to stop the thing I was gonna do and check out what's new. Um, do you want to jump right in?
Let's do it. Let's do
Cool.
it.
So this was I was doing something before the show this morning because I'm on East Coast time. It's not 6:30 in the morning like you. I was doing something and I went to Manus where I had a project in Manus, which is an agentic language model software for anyone who doesn't know Manus. And it says this right here. This was new from this morning, or maybe from yesterday, but I didn't use it yesterday. It says introducing audio. So this is manus.im, like instant message, manus.im. Turn any text into speech with one click. So you click that audio button, and then you can listen to the content hands-free or on the go while multitasking. So for anybody that was using Manus, um, I guess this is from yesterday, from July 2nd. Turn any text into speech by clicking the audio button, and we'll just quickly see what else is new. You can tell Manus that you have a preference for which agent you want it to use. There's a little laboratory button there, and you can choose between um, speed mode or quality mode. I think that's pretty standard, David, don't you?
Totally. So speed mode and quality mode. Interesting.
Like I think most of these tools have two settings. Whether they use the different terms or same terms, I think it's pretty similar. So this is the feature lab. Maybe let's actually go to Manus.
Yeah, check that out, Brex. I don't recall. So you're saying you could either choose to have it
Yeah. So in the
great
bottom
quality
left
or
corner,
take longer. Oh, interesting. Wow, I didn't know that.
I'm learning it right now with you. In the bottom left corner, you get your home page, your contact button, the knowledge. What's the knowledge? I don't know if I've ever clicked the knowledge. Oh,
Oh, that's probably your knowledge base. You're
that's my
putting
personal
it.
knowledge.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Those are my projects. There's the feature lab. When you click feature lab, you can choose between speed and quality. So if you're like, look, sometimes Manus takes like 9 minutes and I just want this to do the thing. If your complaint is, oh my gosh, it takes too long, you could just switch over to speed,
Right.
right? Which is cool. Speed mode is designed for smooth workflows, fast, reliable answers, momentum. Quality mode is for complex, nuanced, exceptionally thoughtful responses. And how deep? Speed mode, an 8 page overview, data points, and a little orientation. Quality mode, 27 page analysis. So, like, triple. Rich data, lots of references, specific strategies, and then they're presenting. Um, you know, your presentations might go from 8 slides to 10. They're using vague words, strong content, solid content. That doesn't mean anything. Um, they're using bento modules, which is like a visual, like a bento box, compartmentalized. And then in the quality mode, they add Gantt and scatter. Um, yeah, okay. So I think, David, because it's the 4th of July tomorrow, if you're watching live, I think because it's the midpoint of the year, we're gonna do a bit of a recap of like what's the latest across 6 months. Does that sound good?
Definitely. What have we seen? And I feel like just compared to like 2023, 2024, it seemed like, well, it kind of still is, right? Where there are new ones popping up. I think we've had solid leaders in different spaces that kind of stay there, right? But then we'll have something kind of come up that's like, oh my God, right? I mean, when did we discover Manus? Because that was pretty crazy, right? When didn't you like have to apply to get in or something, or
Yeah.
right? Or yeah,
It's reminiscent of Google's Gmail. Gmail was gated.
right. I
For
remember.
anyone that remembers the start of Google around 1999, 2000, 2001, was Google 99 or 2000?
Oh, I think it was 20, I think it was early 2000s. Let me go to my little chart here I have on LinkedIn about when the companies, oh, it may not tell me. Let's see, well, I could just Google.
Yeah, it was founded in September of 98. It just took a while to ramp up.
Right.
So For anyone that remembers before September of 98, I'll date myself and say I started college September of 98. And when you go to college with the new computer, as many people did, and you connect into the university high-speed internet, it was a revolution. You'd been at other people's houses and computers got you nowhere. Like it just got you nothing. You're like, I don't know, I could look up almost nothing on the internet. It was shocking. It was like a convenience store newsstand compared to a university library. It was a very limited amount of very surfacey, two-dimensional images, very stock. Power users of the internet from the 90s would tell you, no, Brad, there was more. But the majority experience for North Americans was almost non-existent. And then Google showed up, and Google displaced any other company that led the internet, like Lycos or Yahoo or Search.com or Ask Jeeves or
And as you're talking about this, Brad, I'm just going to show something. I want you to talk through it because I
sure.
think this is interesting. It can certainly apply to where AI is going, right?
That's the parallel. Yeah, I love this chart. You put this up before.
Right. So,
America, I got to move my screen so I can see this larger, but America Online was where everybody used. Everybody got that disc in the mail. They tried it out. There we go. Yahoo, GeoCities, Netscape, Excite, Lycos,
so 96,
MSN,
97
Microsoft,
now,
right?
1997. Yep. Keep
Yeah,
going.
so most of America's using America Online until we get to September. There, Google starts up, and Google's not on there. He's not on there yet. He's not on there yet. eBay, Excite. Where's Google? We're March, April 2000. So Google is a company. They're just not on the charts yet.
Right.
CNET,
There
there we
it
go,
is.
right
There
there,
it is.
right
Look
there.
so fast.
So that was like, is there a way to pause that video or go back
Yeah, of
towards
course.
the like,
Yeah, we could definitely go back.
go back and see when that is. When does Google come on? So go back a little bit more,
Oh,
a
okay,
little
got
more.
it.
It's like mid 2000, I think. There, right there. So February 2001, Google is not on that chart. That's the important thing. So think about that. So from 98 to 2001, they're not on the chart. So all of 99 and all of 2000, essentially like 2.5 years, Google is not on the radar for
Right.
the most part. Yahoo, America Online, and MSN look like the kings of the internet and looks like they're unstoppable giants.
Right. And remember, this is kind of right around the .com crash, right? That was kind of expedited by 9/11. So this is interesting, right? That they're not there yet. And I think at one point they had offered to sell to Yahoo for maybe $10 million. It was something like ridiculously
Oh,
small.
it's gas money for your yacht.
Right, exactly.
So we hit play here.
Yeah,
Google rips in on the scene of the first or second quarter of 2001, and then let's just watch this play out, how soon it takes to get to the top.
yes.
Right? It climbs. We're at January, February, March, April, May, June 2002, September 2002. So like a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? We're about 4 years into Google, and then Google explodes like this. It just crushes everybody else. At like the 4 or 5 year point, if you pause it there, right? So it took like a launch period, and then Google was unstoppable. And then for
Right.
everybody else who uses computers for the next 20 years, we know that Google goes on to crush everybody.
And it was right around, yeah, and I'd be interested. I think it was around 2004 when Yahoo made the offer to buy them,
Yeah.
and they didn't buy them.
When you watch the chart like this and you know 20 years later what actually happened, what you see is just that's the speed of adoption. Like Google was the preferred product. It was just it took some people time to adopt it, but it was already eclipsing it.
Right. I mean, look at Ask still there, eBay,
America
My,
Online rapidly dropped.
MySpace. Look at Facebook, just jumped.
Yeah.
And YouTube, which is also basically a Google search engine.
Yeah. And you notice Facebook shrank there. I was watching the Facebook chart. It shrank for a minute. So when you see some of these softwares in the AI context, they might shrink for a minute because there's no doubting Facebook and Meta is one of the most well-known companies in the world. So they had a moment of recession or ebb and flow or shrink and grow. Um, and look
Right.
how much these numbers dwarf everything else. Like it's absurd.
Right. And I think that's where you have to watch funding too, Brad, because some of these companies will get a bunch of funding. It's like, okay, let's go into R&D. Maybe we don't want a ton of people to download our tools or go to our website right now. So but we have cash, so we can really, prepare to leapfrog the next one.
Yeah.
So I
What's
think that
interesting
is smart.
is Twitter starts to climb here, I think. There it is. There comes Twitter. Here comes Twitter,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
Yeah. So this chart stops
Yeah. Oh no, it's
three
still
three
going. It's
years.
still,
Oh,
wait,
there's more.
I don't know what happened. Let's see here. Oh, bad.
Yeah. So it's interesting when we reflect back
Yeah.
on what's new in AI that it's important. I like that you bring that up. It's important to look at what was new for 20 years in computers is that what seemed like a small company, Google would have seemed like a small company for 3 years, and then it became the biggest name in technology for 20 years. So any of these softwares, I would say are still horses in the race. They're all of them could be that dark horse winner where you're like, wow, I never would have saw that coming. You're like, except you should have, because technology has shown us for 25 years that any one really strong root can grow into the biggest forest of technology.
It's amazing, right? I mean, I think back then it was HP, it was IBM, it was Microsoft, right? A lot of these bigger brands.
Yeah.
And then you just see these companies come out of nowhere.
You know
So,
what the barrier was, David? The barrier then before downloadable software was retail space. If you remember going into a retail store, you had shelf space and you had to pick up a box and bring it to the front, which meant that someone had to manufacture that item, ship it, and then bargain for shelf space. Does it
right.
go in the place where people reach the most, or is it over in the place where people reach the least? That is a war unto itself of shelf space, you know,
Yes.
and then advertising for the shelf space in the store and other stores, that's all been eliminated. Now, software pops up on its own. It tells you, it emails you, it says, hey, can I be your friend? Do you want to buy me? I'll just show up on your phone right now. I'll show up on your desktop. Uh, it's astonishing. And I think it's important to give that context as we do this recap of the first half year, is that there is no guarantee that any of these softwares aren't going to crush. And we're going to get to one that might crush. And we're going to talk about why. So we looked at Manus. Manus now has an agent preference and it has introducing audio. Um, I did a search here across all the tabs of what's new in. Part of what I wanted to do is show the audience what's new broadly, what's the latest that is in these softwares. But I also want to show you when you use Google, that Google now has this AI overview. You can see the sparkle button there. It says AI overview, right? So part of what's new is that Google is trying to not send you to a website. Google's like, why don't you just hang out in Google? Why don't you just hang out here? They're like, I can show you where I got it, but I'll just give you what you probably want. Um, so this video that it sources came from the 13th of June. Rob, the AI guy, don't know him. But if you don't know that ChatGPT has some new updates, they have enhanced search. It's more comprehensive. It's better at understanding. It can handle longer conversations. It can run multiple searches, right? It's got projects, it's got deep research, it's got a voice mode. You can use it on mobile. It has better memory and it's easier to create and manage projects. There's newer models, they have deeper insight. You can now share. This part I like. David, do you ever share a URL for a chat? Or you hang out with someone, you do one together on Zoom and you send it to people? You ever do that?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right? I think what's cool is you can now do that inside projects. So the reason to use projects in ChatGPT is you can upload up to 20 files. So whatever I'm working on, I can be like, here's what I want it to look like. Here are my preferences. Here's the information about that project. I can put 20 of those files in. And then every time I have a chat inside that folder, it knows those details and it uses those details as best as it can. But until recently, if I made a chat inside there, right, because you can make multiple chats inside a project that all have the same context, I couldn't share that externally, or there was a goofy workaround. But now you can share those, which is cool. Um, I like that there's a new reason feature to give analysis and explain where it came from. You can get multiple citations. So it's becoming much more robust and saying like, look, here's how I got the answer. Here's where I looked. You could share it with other people. It's less of this like personal individual black box experience. I think what's more the latest than the bells and whistles and features, which are great. The latest is people are improving the way they use the tool. They're changing their mindset. They're saying, look, I'm going to treat this like a teammate and not a tool. We talked about this on the catch up. Um, I think that's what's the latest is people are starting to see that it's not that mine is broken or yours is better. It's that there's a way of using the tool as a teammate and just giving it little nudges like, hey, I want you to do this. Instead of just going, ah, it should be perfect. It's not perfect. AI is going to take over the world and blame the robots. But anyway, uh,
Totally.
Claude, what's new in Claude? So Claude's another large language model. I'm going to watch the time because we love these topics. And I don't want to talk all day on these things.
Mhm.
Um, Claude has artifacts. So an artifact is something that you can share. It's like a pop-up. It looks like a mini website or a mini app. It makes them, it's really cool. The best part about sharing an artifact is when you share an artifact, other people can play with it. So, earlier this year we made like Tetris games or we made like, early Nintendo games or Candy Crush clones. Not for making money. We didn't sell it to advertise it or advertise it to sell it. We just said like, hey, could you do this? But you can give that link to someone else. They can play it and they can say, you know what? I like the, summer colors theme. Could you change the colors to summer colors? I think you can edit other people's artifacts. It's really cool. And just like ChatGPT, their models got better, their accuracy got better, and then the coding, and then the MCP. I mean, for people who code, these tools became rocket fuel. Um, for people who connect software tools, the Model Context Protocol is like a standard in bridging language models to other information sources. So it's like, okay, I have this language model. It can go and read the internet and summarize it and bring it back. With this bridge, I could say, now go to my email inbox and make a bridge using this computer language. It's a standardized computer language that bridges out to your email, it bridges out to news sites, it bridges out to anything that has like an open port. You now run this protocol, right? And it runs off these language models and it gives context to the information. I don't know if I'm saying all those words right. I think I am.
Mm.
Um, I get the concept that you're building a bridge out to all these softwares. You as a programmer don't have to be a programmer. You as a keyboard user can just be a keyboard user, or even with your voice and just say, hey, I would like to connect these things. Can I copy and paste some instructions? And then you can just be the copy paster and then make these things go. I'm being glib. It's still a lot of work. It's not smooth. It's not easy. It might take you a couple hours. But once it works, it's like magic, and it probably does like 1,000 hours worth of work for you in minutes. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. I think you can get like 1,000 hours worth of work out of them across, a few months of usage.
Nice.
Um, Gemini keeps moving and moving and moving. Gemini now has code. Gemini says they're going to revolutionize how you build and create and get things done. They've got new models. They've got this CLI. It's like for coding and problem solving. They've released Imogen 4. If you are using ChatGPT to make images, it's so good. If you're using ChatGPT to make a poster, you can tell it to make one with words. The big revolution, what's new for ChatGPT, is now putting words into the images will get accurate words, right? And the best thing is if you use it with Canva, for anybody who uses Canva, you can make your image in ChatGPT, just port it over to Canva, and Canva can help you edit it with their AI features. I think there's a real like minimum standard with AI software these days that you have to learn about 10 of these. I think you do to be a modern professional. It's just like you just have to say, I guess I got to learn about 10 of these things. There's not likely to continue to be one that you can learn at the sake of not learning the other ones. Do you think that's true, David?
Um,
Or do you think there's going to be one or two that you can just say, I'm only going to learn these two and I'm going to learn them real good?
I think, again, I'll give you the it depends answer. And I think it just depends on what you're working on, what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are, which I think is very important,
Hmm.
right? But there are things popping up. That's why we have the latest. That's why we have the AI, the AI catch up.
Yeah.
right? So you can stay on top of these because I think it's very distracted. I think distracting. I think people are finding themselves running through tools, wasting money. Look, we saw it at the enterprise level where companies were just pouring money into OpenAI, and and that was the first one out. These other things, then that really bit them. And now I think as individuals are kind of a much smaller part of that, but in their own world, and if you're an entrepreneur, you have to keep costs down. I think just looking at it, what can I do to save 5 hours in my week or two
Mhm.
hours in my week to start and then increase? I don't know if
Yeah.
that answered your question, Brad, but
No, no, that is a good answer. The good answer is if you're a corporation, be careful of doing everything. But if you're an individual, you should acknowledge that there's a cost benefit. If you spend the time, you might save even more money and even more time. That's a really smart answer. So, um, from early June, from about a month ago, there's now AI mode in Google products in Gemini, and you can get financial data. If you've been watching the animation here, they're creating this. So Google's got really cool things. Um, they've got interactive charts, right? They've got voice mode. I think a lot of people are getting a look inside of how we did it. A lot of these softwares are getting a voice mode. A lot of them have greatly improved their image. Um, you can ask photos to help find your photos. Like these are really, really, really important things. If you're a Google product user, this is the blog from Google. There's Gemini for education, the revolutionizing science discovery. Google is super strong. Keep your eye on Google. Um, Notebook LM. I've been using Notebook LM. Have you been using Notebook LM?
love, love, love Notebook LM.
Right. So what's the latest across the few months is that there's web source discovery. So I go into my notebook and I'm like, you know what? I want to make a notebook about, I don't know, summer gardens, right? I'm going to make a summer garden. Let's just say, for example. And then what I can do is I can say discover sources. There's a button and it'll help you discover any sources. So if I go to my notebook LM, if I make a new notebook with that black create new button, in the top right hand corner of this pop up. So this white square pops up for everybody. This white rectangle pops up. And then there's this button here in the top right that says discover sources and it says, what are you interested in? I could say summer gardens, right? And
Yep.
then I'll just submit that answer. And what happens is it searches and then I can choose whether or not I put those into my notebook, right? Good housekeeping, Reddit, right? Garden photography. You're like, you know what? I don't want garden photography. I could take that out. And I've selected 9 sources. And if I say, you know what, Reddit, I don't want Reddit. Now I've got 8 sources. And I would just import those into my notebook. And all of a sudden, my notebook turns into a beautiful summer garden notebook. And I can do that again and again with this discover button up here, right? So that's new. Um, you've got mind maps. Are you liking the mind maps, David?
Yes. Amazing, right? I think it's and I feel like I have to schedule more time to leverage it for like the project you and I both had within the last few months, right? Just
Yeah.
looking at that and spending time to go deep on these things, I think is important.
Yeah, that it's true. It's like some people will say, you know what, I ended up spending the same 2 hours, but I'll say the quality of what you got is much better. So that took a couple of seconds to make this mind map from our summer gardens. And for anyone who's never seen this before, it starts off with the single topic, right? And then you use these collapsible arrows. Um, maybe I clicked it in a funny way because my zoom um, I zoomed too far into the screen, right? So you can collapse these and open them with those arrows. And anything with an arrow out, you can learn about the plants. And this is not an exercise in learning about plants, but the point is you can bring these out broader and broader. At one point, you go, Brad, great. What's the purpose? You would click that button, and in the center panel, you'd get to interact with the sources. And you'd say, oh, okay. So when I want to know about that topic, it looks like it's grayed out. It's not like bright white, but when I click on it, all of a sudden it becomes bright white. And then I can read all about that. And if I wanted the source, I click on the number. It's a really, really great system, the mind maps.
So then did you do this with your asks for the Focus Guy project as you were having all the calls and then break it down within the mind map yet?
My heart just sank. That's such a good idea. I did not
I
do
need
that.
to
That's
do that. Just all these things keep. It
As
seems
soon as
so
you said that,
obvious.
I'm like, that's a really good idea. I should do that.
Here
There's
goes
a
the weekend. No, I hear
That's
you.
yeah, that's a different project to talk about. So,
Exactly.
so Notebook LM now supports multimodal PDFs. So, what that means is that you give it a PDF, and the PDF has more than text. It has the mode of images, it has the mode of graphs. They use these words, they're complicated. What it's saying is you can put in fancy PDFs, right? There's enhanced source handling. So now the sources can be PDFs, text files, Markdown, which is the bolds and the large headlines and the bullets. All that is Markdown language. You can give it audio as a source, Google Docs as a source, web links, YouTube videos, and copy text. So just copy and paste from wherever, right? So you can put any of those things into your notebook and make sense of it, which is amazing.
Yeah.
You can now, I didn't know this till right now, you can output different languages. Super cool. So you can say the output language is in French, English, Spanish, German, Russian, Italian, Japanese, Chinese, Mandarin, Brazil Portuguese, everything. So you can share these now as public notebooks. You can customize the audio overviews. The audio overviews is its own whole deep dive that you can make like a radio host program of two people talking about your information. Um, and then there's a business version focus. I'm just seeing this right now. Did you know that there's Notebook LM Business?
I sure did not. That must be pretty new.
Yeah, it's offering enhanced features for data privacy and security. Oh, okay. So I don't know that it's features for the user, it's features for privacy and security.
Okay, so that means are they saying there's no privacy and security with the individual
Oh
user?
my God. Oh my goodness. Um, okay. Well, I mean, this is from,
Additional features? I don't know what that means.
you know what? This is from October, so they might have incorporated all those. Here we go. Notebook on business. I think it's for organizations. Maybe it's just between each other. Okay. All right. Anyway, we got to move on. There's so much to do here, and it's already been quite a lot of minutes here. Um, if you've ever seen a Google employee open up any of these tools, they have like this red testing button. I've seen that this year. I watched someone from Google give a presentation at an event, and then I
Oh,
was like, wait a minute, you have a different tool. They're just like, yeah, we have like the internal version with new features. So someone here is showing you like the internal version, and they're saying that flashcards is coming. So this is from a couple days ago, June 30th. Um, Google's working on flashcards and a possibility to discover sources. Oh, I didn't want to go there. Um,
I love that.
a possibility to discover sources across your Google Drive. So, like where I did with the garden, summer garden, it went to the internet. Imagine it went to your Google Drive and discovered sources from in there. So you didn't have to cobble together all the things you wanted to feed into it. You just have your Google Drive. These things
Incredible.
just they keep coming. It's amazing. Um, I want to get to that was Manus. I want to get over to the big one before we go too far. So um, Grok 4 is coming out allegedly tomorrow or Saturday or Sunday or Monday. I think Elon said at, on, or just after the 4th of July. Grok
Right.
4 is coming out. So we've talked about at the top of the hour how in computer software in the last 25 years, the horse at the back of the race can still win. And I think that Grok could be the horse at the back of the race that could still win, which is to say, if they properly execute on this, the Twitter turned into X, turned into Grok company could be a premier competitor in the space of language models, which might replace search engines, which means that it could be the new Google. And if there's anyone on the planet that you might believe would do that, it's going to be the richest man in the world. I'm just telling
Right.
you.
Well, not to mention Tesla and all the data they're bringing in that way. And I'm not 100% sure about the relationship between the two. But if you think about all that data that can come from the vehicles,
Mm.
plus X, plus whatever they're doing with
Oh,
the
yeah.
language model, I mean, it's ridiculous. And I think yeah, it's crazy.
So this is admittedly, this is a Medium article, right? It's from 16 hours ago. I don't know. Uh, the Yank pal, he's at 17 followers, so this might be horseshit. I don't know. But what he's saying makes sense, which is that the fact is, yes, Elon has said that Grok 4 is coming. And as this guy is saying, um, that the original versions of Grok were okay, but things are leveling up fast. And here's what we want to talk about. Elon has hinted that Grok 4, which is going to come out in the next 4 days or less, is trained on real-time X data. So what that means is it might go and search using the X Twitter platform and bring back data based on the content there. So it means that it's up to date, up to like the minute or up to the second, right? That access to real, seemingly human-fed data. If you remember when he bought the platform, when he bought what was then Twitter, Elon made a big deal of telling you what percentage of it was bots. Do you remember how it was like a massive news story? What percentage was bots, which is
Yeah.
to say, um, a computer program and not a human user liking or disliking opinions and voices and links. Um, the fact that this Grok tool might be pulling real-time data means it might simultaneously be the most up-to-date human voice interpreter, and it might also be the most up-to-date robot voice interpreter. And the chemistry of that could be up for debate. But nonetheless, his big vision, seemingly, is that it'll be funny and honest and open source. Um, you know, what this means for the future is that it might act like your friend, it might give you breaking news in real time, and it might not be shy about a controversial topic. Here's what is coming out through the rumor mill. Connected directly to X, it knows what's happening. Ask it about live events, memes, breaking news that has a real personality. It's trained on open data and proprietary data. It might have more advanced reasoning. Um, and what's the actual difference? That it's going to feel faster, more logical, still be witty, and feel more human. That it might be like a more polished upgrade with personality and brain power. I think we're in the rumor mill. It's not come out yet, but that's no stretch of the imagination that Elon, who's been in the tech world for the majority of what we'd call the modern tech era, that he might be very aware of exactly what we talked about, is that you can be last in the race and surge ahead through sheer brute force of data and features. Um, I feel like we went about 35 minutes there. I could go more. You tell me.
Well, let's do this because I think what we should do is next week's show. We should just complete because we still have several other categories to go over.
Yep.
Then we could talk about the year ahead and just what some of the goals are and get feedback from the listeners too. I think would be great.
Yeah.
Um, right. So I think comment, we'll put everything on the we'll create a deck as we always do. We'll put the live stream up.
Yeah.
Let's look at
If we remember to, David, we'll go over Adobe, Midjourney, images. We'll go over video and
presentation.
audio
Yeah, video, audio, yep.
and presentations. Gamma, beautiful. Um, like it's a lot. There's a lot in AI software, but the people who are successfully connecting these tools are saving six figures. They're saving half their work week. Um, it's no exaggeration that some people are very strongly winning using AI software. And the more you keep up with the latest, the more you can know ways that you can save time and money, and make your projects better.
for sure. And just something popped up on my ChatGPT Brad, before we sign off.
All
Is this
right.
new or did I just not notice it? Where you can just turn on temporary chat and then it won't appear in your history?
That's old news.
It
Oh
is.
my goodness. That's days old. No,
What was
that's
that? Right.
that's been around for a bit.
It was the
Um,
button not there before I didn't notice it.
The
Right.
but the button was there. Yeah, the button was there. Sometimes if you're just like, how do I not burn the chicken?
I'm
You don't
plowing
put that
through.
in
No,
your
listen, right? But even like Gamma, we have our Gamma, we moved it to Tuesday nights now. Some things you're just not noticing. So I thought it was there for a while because I know we've talked about it, but then it was like right up there when I was starting to chat. Anyway,
Yeah, there's 20 softwares that you use regularly, and each one has 20 buttons. All of a sudden, there's 400 buttons in your head, and that's just from that. You go and live the rest of your life.
great.
Life is complex, ladies and gentlemen. That's
So
why it's good to hang out at the latest and learn what's new.
now I love it. And we'll go more into 2020, first half of 2025. We'll look at the second half. We have the summit coming up. There's brain juice. You'll have to get with Brad for an invite to that. Um, AI4 conference. That's gonna be exciting.
That's for the people who don't know, the AI4 conference is what, one of the world's biggest AI conferences, David?
Yes, I mean it's pretty big, and they're just adding. amazing speakers. I'm looking forward to it.
And you're speaking,
I'm
speaking,
speaking,
you're
yes,
speaking in AI for, which is
right.
amazing.
Which I
Yeah.
love that flashcard that you showed. I'm like, oh, I'm using that for my talk, you know? And then I think at our virtual summit that's happening July 15th and 16th, and I know you'll be a little transit for, we're getting you in there because I think this topic would be so great, just like, where we're at. And then maybe we just look forward at that point, where what people can use to make sure they're staying competitive ahead of the game.
And I'm gonna challenge you here to do an upcoming episode of the latest where you show us the latest through the lens of LinkedIn.
Okay.
Not just features on LinkedIn, because every time I watch you show people how to use LinkedIn, myself and everyone in the room seems impressed. And these are people who've used it as a tool for years. You show us things that we are all just like jaw drop, like, oh, I've never thought about that. So I would love for you to show the definitive latest way I'm using LinkedIn.
We'll do it for sure.
Nice.
Okay,
Maybe in two
awesome.
weeks, two
Yeah,
weeks,
yeah, no,
3 weeks.
I love it. Let's do it because I think there's like a lot of like AI automation on LinkedIn. I don't know that that's the way to go on LinkedIn. So there is
Yeah.
the humanity that we all need.
Yeah.
And just like the polarizing industries we didn't talk about, getting in with Stone AI now in entertainment and just as other industries where people are just like, oh, that's AI. That's like black or white. It's like, no, you haven't seen all the things that are possible. Anyway, they're coming around.
All right.
Okay, brother, good one.
Yeah.
And that is the latest. Have a great fourth if you're in